All right, everybody. Happy August 5th, 2022. Getting to the end of the first week of August, the dog days of summer. My name is Eli Robinson. I am the Chief Trivia Officer here at Water Cooler Trivia. You can find us online at watercoolertrivia.com. You can find us on TikTok, LinkedIn, all the various social medias. Chief Trivia Officer. We do a weekly trivia game for offices and organizations to stay connected to one another, have a good time, and then we review the game every week here online so you can see what we asked, what people got right, what people got wrong, etc. If you ever have any questions, you want to check us out, you know where to find us. Would love to talk trivia with you. So here's what it looked like this week's game. 4740 total number of users. Average score of 7.79. I think it was actually very close to what the average score was last week. I think that we're pretty happy with that-ish type of performance with a median of 8. You can see that there were a whole bunch of people who had a score of 9, 8 being the second highest, and then almost 18% of people scoring a perfect score with 10. We'll get to question 9 a little bit later, which was ultimately the question that I think got most people or tricked most people, but really happy with this. Looks like, still a number of people here in the 7 and above, which is ultimately how we want to play, how we want our game to go. So let's get right into it. Question number 1. Some of the more fun acronyms out there are SCUBA, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus, and CAPTCHA, completely automated public Turing test to tell computers and humans apart. And what word that stands for radio detection and ranging? Of course, that acronym would be radar. Radar would be that acronym. 92% correct. A route where you want a Q1 to be. Really enjoyed the CAPTCHA fun fact. I think I knew the SCUBA. I don't think I knew the CAPTCHA one, which was awesome. The original question had a third, which was OG as original gangster. However, Chris at Bright Metrics, through his answer, actually pointed out that that's not an acronym. If it was an acronym, it would be OG instead of OG. It's just initials for something or abbreviation. So kudos to him. So we had to actually edit the question in the middle of the week, although it didn't have anything to do with how people did. Radar, very right. We did have a meta game this week, so there was something bigger than itself going on with the game, but you didn't find out until Q10. But that's ultimately, radar. We tried to ease people into what was going on. Question number 2, combining a Star Wars character, red cups popular with fraternities, arias in operas, and Alex Honnold's daring rock climbing style would get you a group of what? So the wording on this question clearly threw people for a loop, which were I think was kind of anticipated and also kind of a little bit unexpected. You saw a picture of Alex Honnold there. So the answer to the question is they are all solos. So you had Han Solo, solo cups, solo singing, and he is free soloing is what he's known for. So we ended up accepting any answer that had the word solo in it. Now, ultimately, that certainly was not in the spirit of, there were some answers that were not in the spirit of realizing that they were all solos. However, we didn't want to penalize people for perhaps us structuring the question poorly. So for the meta game to work, you needed the answer to be exactly solos, but otherwise, we accepted a whole bunch of variations on the term solo. Question number 3. To an MD, they are the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and the subscapularis muscle. To lay people, these are the 4 muscles in your shoulder that make up the what cuff? And then you see a picture there of it. The answer is, of course, the rotator cuff. 91% correct. Pretty happy with where this landed. There were a few rotary, rotational. We ended up accepting all of those. I think it's in the spirit of what we want. I really love these types of questions where you provide complexity. So in this case, it would be the medical term, and then you ask people for the lay. I think that there's just a lot of fun that happens with people's brains because oftentimes you're teaching them something. So I wouldn't have known what the muscles in the rotator cuff are, as well as kind of like allowing the people to like connect dots, which I really enjoy. For the metagame, the answer would have had to have been specifically rotator. Question number 4. Since 2017, Honda's best-selling American models are the crossover CR-V and what community-oriented compact car? There you can see a picture of a very old Honda Civic there on the right. The answer is, of course, the Civic. 86% correct. I think we probably could have included a more modern picture of a Civic, which would have helped people a lot. This question really was either Civic or Accord, right? The Honda Accord and the Honda Civic are like far and away the two of the three best-selling Hondas going on. And then ultimately, when you get to the metagame, it should have helped you with knowing that it was Civic. But a community-oriented is kind of like where the additional clue for Civic could have come from. Question number 5. In Latin, the term nona hora is the 9th canonical hour of the day. In English, we modified nona to what time of day that's great for a sandwich or a cowboy duel. 93% correct. Of course, the answer is noon. Just a really, really fun fact question. I don't think I would have ever been able to guess where the term noon came from. I also really like the people who put midday, midday. Midday is a palindrome, which is a little hint for what ultimately occurred in the game. But midday is like very, very close to what people could have wanted. So I liked that as a guess. We also got a lot of people who guessed 12 p.m., which I guess they were responding to the sandwich or cowboy duel hints, although it seemed odd that would be a guess that we would see. But noon, of course, is the correct answer. Question number 6. John David Washington and Robert Pattinson can time travel, or their guns can time travel, or whatever. So went what backwards 2020 Christopher Nolan thriller, and then there was an image of Christopher Nolan located there. Only 50% correct, which was really, really surprising. So we probably should have included a photo of the movie poster, etc., instead of Christopher Nolan. I don't think there would have been anyone who was like, oh, now that I know what Christopher Nolan looks like, I now feel like, it's a fairer question, or I know more about it. This was the first big post-COVID movie. So if you guys, it was like the first tentpole. So if you guys remember looking back, it got delayed a few times. It was supposed to come out, I think, in March or April. And then I think it ultimately came out in September 2020. So it's unlikely that a lot of people ended up going to theaters if you were very COVID conscious. But it was the first big movie post-COVID. I didn't like that it was this low. The movie is, of course, Tenet. I don't know if I said that, T-E-N-E-T. I do worry that this question kind of bit too close along male-female lines. We try to stay away from questions that like any subsection of the population would be able to get that other subsections would not be able to get. I guess it was a fairly dude-ish movie, very sci-fi, weird. I enjoyed it. But 50% correct, like I said, could have been a little bit higher, but ultimately it turned out to be just okay. Question number 7. The Presidential Fitness Test, a national physical fitness testing program conducted in the United States public and middle and high schools from the late 1950s until 2013, contained 6 various exercises: curl up, push up, the sit and reach, the 30-foot shuttle run, the 1-mile endurance run, and what 6th discipline testing your biceps and lats. And then we have an image, ironically, of Michelle Obama, who I believe was part of the effort to undo the Presidential Fitness Test, believe it or not. The answer is, of course, pull-up, P-U-L-L-U-P. 82% correct. Very sad to see this from my childhood go by the wayside. I think a lot of people who haven't been in elementary or middle and high school for a while forget that this is still something that don't know that this is something that has gone by the wayside. I also had a number of people in the comments say that apparently you were able to do an arm hang, which is kind of like an aborted pull-up. So I guess if you just like hang by the bar as opposed to actually pulling yourself up, which is about all I could do. So we didn't accept arm hang because of the metagame, but there were a number of people who wrote in to say that. So I wouldn't include a question like this without the metagame, because it's like, it seems basically esoteric, but we really wanted to come up with something that to get the answer to be pull-up. Question number 8. Thank you, sir. May I have another little Animal House reference there? In the paddling events of the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, Jiří Prgšovek of the Czech Republic and Ricarda Funk of Germany each won gold medals in the slalom discipline in what type of boat? The answer is kayak. 79% correct. So first fun fact, Tokyo Olympics will forever be known as Tokyo 2020, even though the Olympics occurred in 2021. I really enjoyed that one. Our quizmaster wanted people to know that the word kayak comes from the word kayak, Q-A-J-A-Q, an Inuit palindrome itself. And then we got into like this really interesting question about canoe versus kayak. So the events in the Olympics are called canoeing. However, the boats that you are in the canoeing events in the Olympics are either canoes, as denoted by a C, or kayaks as denoted by a K. Now, I guess I understand that canoe seems to be in the racing community like a broader term. So I thought about accepting canoe, but once again, if you think about what the metagame was, canoe would not be correct. So we didn't accept it, and I appreciate all the people who wrote in, and it caused us to go really research this, but I believe the type of boat that these people wanted was a kayak. All right, question number 9, and this is where things got really hairy this week. What do you call a single pill of acetaminophen that misses its friends? It should also be noted that I believe the category for this one was pitiable paracetamol, which is acetaminophen in foreign countries. Okay, and then there was a picture of a pill. So 33% correct. The correct answer is lonely Tylenol. Now, this question really pissed people off. We know this because we had people write in that they didn't like that we marked their answer wrong. We saw people writing in the answers that they didn't really like this, which we're not above pissing people off. That'll happen sometimes when you create a bunch of material that people play. One of the things that I think this brings into focus is like, what exactly is trivia? I mean, we brand ourselves as water cooler trivia. I personally, and I think the company, takes a fairly wide range of definitions of what it means to write and deliver trivia to you guys. It is true that this is not a certifiable fact, that this is not like a thing that you would look up in a dictionary or an encyclopedia or whatever it may be. And I think that upset people because a lot of times when they think about trivia, it is something that is knowable. And so we will continue to evaluate this like we do. Like I said, we fashion ourselves as being trivia people, but I think we just take a very, very wide-ranging definition of what a trivia actually is. So we purposely put this question as question number 9. It was adjacent to the revealer for the rest of the game. And we chose to be sticklers on this one. So there were all sorts of people who put answers that were theoretically correct, palindromes that didn't make sense. So if you put some people put like Tylenol lonely tea, like put a T at the end of lonely, which technically is a palindrome, but it doesn't seem like you wouldn't call a single pill of acetaminophen misses its friends Tylenol lonely tea. I also learned for this one how to find an Excel formula that you could look at answers and find out which ones were palindromes, so that was really fun. So I got to see that. And then this was far and away the funniest and best wrong answers we've had for any question since we've been here. So a leave me alone was excellent. A sad min of friend, which I thought was great. Drug in need of hug and morose dose were some of the ones that stood out to me. The answer, of course, as it is a palindrome, is lonely Tylenol. That's what we were looking for. Question number 10. What is the P name of a sequence of characters, for example, race car or madam, that reads the same backward as forward? Now may be a good time to go over the previous 9 answers. Winky face, 80% correct. Of course, the answer is palindrome. Really, really happy that a lot of people knew this. Like, grammar words sometimes get to people. And this was far and away the most subtle clue for the revealer. I mean, it's just kind of like a little throwaway clue there at the end. But as you can see, the answers were all palindromes. Radar, solos, rotator, civic, noon, tenet, pull-up, kayak, lonely Tylenol, and palindrome. Tenet and lonely Tylenol being the ones that really got to people. Ultimately, we were really, really happy with this game. I think it was the game that came together the best of all the ones that we did. The questions were fair. Like I said, other than tenet being a little bit harder than we wanted it to be, like pretty happy with where all this stuff ended up. All the questions at the beginning tended to be pretty straightforward. As coming back to the stats here, 9 was the most popular score. Lots of 8s, lots of 10s. Like, this is ultimately where we think we want to be, and we're really glad that a lot of people wrote in and said that they really enjoyed it, which made us really happy. As I said earlier, I'm Eli Robinson, the Chief Trivia Officer here at Water Cooler Trivia. Come check us out. We have a game every week for you and your coworkers or anybody in your organization to stay connected and have a good time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find us. See you next week.